All right, the first round of the NBA draft is in the books. We've got the second round coming up later today, in which the Bulls have another two selections at 38 and 56. I actually thought there was going to be more action on the trade front in the draft last night. Yeah, we had some movement when it came to the Thunder and Grizzlies swapping picks, one pick away from each other. Same with the Knicks and the Lakers. The Spurs and the Nuggets made some minor trades. It was a lot of late first round trade action. I was kind of hoping for something a little more blockbuster, but that's okay. Maybe I was hoping for a trade up scenario from the Bulls, but to be honest, it might not have been necessary. And I even said before, in a draft class like this, as deep as it is, you can get a solid player at 15, and it likely isn't worth trading future assets to try and move up a few spots. But the Bulls walked away from their night with the two new talented prospects in Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain. The Wilson pick, that was expected, no surprises there. The Swain pick, though, a little surprising to some, and also mixed reactions from a lot of Bulls fans based on who was still available at 15. But either way, they have their two newest members of the team. We'll get a chance to see them in Summer League in a couple weeks. I cannot wait for that. And while I touched on each of these guys briefly in my reaction video when the picks first came in, I wanted to talk a little more in detail on how these selections will fit with the Bulls roster going forward and how the picks might shape how the Bulls approach free agency. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. First of all, to any Caleb Wilson or Dailyn Swain fans who might be following their careers over at North Carolina and Texas, and you're watching this, welcome to the channel. Feel free to subscribe if you like the content as I'll be covering and talking about the Bulls all season long. We're happy to have you here. Happy to also have Caleb and Dailyn joining the Chicago Bulls family. Now, I want to start with Caleb Wilson because we've been talking about Wilson for quite some time now, ever since we learned the Bulls were moving up into the top four. When they landed the fourth pick, most of us knew that likely meant the Bulls were getting Wilson, and so we've talked about him quite a bit leading up to the draft. Swain is someone we really haven't done a deep dive on, but I'll get to him in a sec. I mean, for Caleb Wilson, like I said, no-brainer selection. The Bulls were going to take whoever fell to them at number 4, and when it went to Bansa, Peterson, Boozer, you knew there was no way they were going to take anyone else like an Acuff or a Wagler. They were going to pick Wilson, and I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but I somewhat breathed a sigh of relief when Wilson fell to the Bulls because I'd kind of built it up in my mind. I got it in my head that he was going to be a Chicago Bull for the last week or two, thinking that it was a foregone conclusion, so much so to the point where I felt like I might have almost been disappointed if it had been anyone else like Boozer or Peterson. I mean, you guys know I've been worried about Peterson with his health issues and just his work ethic in general. And then Boozer, I still would have gladly taken him on the team, but it was almost like I was committed to Wilson and couldn't picture anyone else with that pick. So didn't matter though, the Bulls get Wilson, and this is arguably their biggest prospect that they've drafted since Derrick Rose. And that's not an exaggeration. This is a new start to a potential franchise player that is going to be coming in. Don't get me wrong, he's still got a lot of work to do. No one is saying he's perfect, but with his elite athleticism, two-way potential, defensive versatility, high fly around the basket, strong rebounder, you're talking about a player that has the tools and the mechanics to be a star in this league. The potential to be one of the better defenders in the NBA, but also can feast offensively when he has a playmaker alongside him in Josh Giddey. Of course, now Claxton has also been added into the mix, another defensive anchor and rim protector. We know Modest is a high-level shot blocker and has great timing in using his length to deter shots, even if he has been beaten off the dribble. And so now you're talking about a very formidable interior defensive team, guys that are agile, quick, and athletic to prevent shots around the basket. Now, Caleb Wilson does need to work on his off-ball defense. He does get lost at times where he focuses too much on the ball and will get caught sleeping and losing his man cutting to the basket. But give it time, he's only 19. But even the sheer talent aside coming from Caleb Wilson, I mean, he already portrays to be a great locker room guy, an energizer, a hype man, fun and outgoing personality, but also just based on all his interviews during the draft process and how he showed up at North Carolina, he's a competitor through and through. And yes, I know all these guys are competitors. You don't make it to this level if you're not one, but Wilson gives me the kind of Michael Jordan vibes. Not saying he's going to be Michael Jordan or ever get to that level. Don't go crazy on me in the comments, but more so in terms of his desire to win, to do whatever he can to get better, getting in the lab and perfecting his game. I mean, he straight up said after getting drafted to the media that he wants to be the greatest of all time, saying, y'all got one of the GOATs in y'all history, it's time for another one. Like, man, that's what I want to hear. the confidence, the drive, the desire to be the absolute best. I eat that stuff up. Give me those guys who are going to give it their all, the guys who aren't just coming in for a paycheck, who are too worried about getting injured, focused more on their ego and how much playing time they're getting. Bring me that energy like you're going to die for this team, figuratively speaking, of course. So I'm excited to see what Caleb Wilson brings to the future of this franchise as one of the most talented prospects to come here in a long time. Now, as it relates to Dailyn Swain, there's been a lot of people who have been unsure about this pick, myself included. When I did my initial reaction video, I thought it made more sense for the Bulls to really go after a more polished shooter. That's the Bulls' biggest need right now, is shooting. Claxton, not a shooter by any means. Wilson, he's actually solid in the mid-range as a shooter, but really hasn't perfected his three-point shot. He shot 25% from three on really low volume last season. And now you have Swain, who hasn't been known as a shooter earlier in his career, although it is encouraging that he has upped his three-point volume and percentage from his freshman season to this past year in his junior season, but still shot 34% on relatively low volume from three. And so to me, when I saw guys like Cam Carr and Phylon Jr. still on the board at 15, I thought, well, okay, those are your guys. You take one of them. Both can shoot, both are physical and athletic, good playing off the ball in the catch and shoot. They can be your typical 3-and-D type players. And then you hear them announce that they're taking Swain at 15, a guy who fits the profile of what Bryson Graham likes, another strong defender, great positional size, being 6'7" as either a wing or a two guard, great slasher to the basket, provides a lot of rim pressure and shot creation that the Bulls do need, and he's also not a bad playmaker as well. He has great court vision and reads the game well, but he's not a strong shooter. I mentioned this in my reaction video because I see a lot of people saying, well, he's not a strong offensive player, and this is another Dalen Terry scenario where you bring in, an athletic defensive-minded player that is very limited offensively, and you hope to just figure it out on the offensive piece later. Nah, Dailyn Swain actually showed up his past season in Texas really well. He was one of their leading scorers, averaging 17.3 points per game, some of the highest true shooting percentage you'll see at 64%. That is some elite efficiency, which speaks to his ability to drive to the basket and finish so easily at the rim. He gets to the free throw line as well at a good rate, shoots it at a solid clip from the free throw line. I mean, you watch his tape from this past season, and there is a lot to like about this kid when it comes to his isolation scoring, but also his tenacity on the defensive end, and how much he values and emphasizes the importance that he puts when it comes to his effort on that end of the floor. He's got the build and the size to be a strong player in this league. So yeah, I can't be mad at this pick. Would I have liked to add someone that was more established on the shooting front? Sure. But this could be one of those sleeper picks that you take a swing on as a high upside guy overall. And look, Bryson Graham said this in his comments to the press after the draft. Shooting is a skill that can be improved. He even called out in his previous experience, guys that he's drafted weren't viewed as shooters coming into the league, but developed their shooting over the years. And it's more so about putting in the work, getting in the reps to become a better shooter, and how for him, he's more focused on high character guys that have the work ethic and the competitive edge to get better. Those are the guys they want to bring into the building. That's what's first and foremost the biggest thing, because he's right. That kind of thing isn't something you can really teach. Character, drive, competitiveness isn't something that can necessarily be taught. And if you have guys that have those characteristics, then it becomes easier to teach them the skills that you need to improve upon, like shooting. So I'm all for these selections. Obviously, Bryson Graham is going to know way more than I ever will when it comes to assessing talent. I'm just a random dude on YouTube. And because we know Bryson is a draft guy, this is what he's great at in assessing talent. We can hopefully trust that these guys are going to be great additions to the team. The other thing too is that, we're very early on in the offseason here. The Bulls are still going to have the ability to add shooting, whether it be in the second round of the draft tonight, free agency, or potential trades they can make from this point forward. We talked about, some of the veteran free agents the Bulls could look to pursue to help mentor these younger players and sign them to short vet min deals or slightly above vet min deals. Guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., who is a great shooter and scoring spark off the bench. Tobias Harris could be another option if the Pistons look to go in another direction. I mean, hell, man. There is also the possibility of Kobe White coming back to the Bulls, even though I doubt that would happen, especially at the amount he's probably going to get paid. But there will be opportunities for the Bulls to round out the roster, get creative, and see what they can do with this talent going forward. Bryson mentioned to the media, teams are feeling him out as far as what he's like when it comes to making trades with other organizations. He himself said, hey, we were on the phone quite a bit. Interest in some of the Bulls players is there. So I would expect this is just the beginning on how the Bulls are constructing this thing, and this is a great start in the right direction with these 2 picks. But I want to hear what you guys think. How do you think the Bulls fared on draft night with their selections? Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.